start?
आप सभी प्रतिभागियों को नमस्कार। आज हमारी लेक्चर सीरीज का एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण दिन है। हमारी लेक्चर सीरीज का आज 100वां लेक्चर है और इस तरीके से धीरे धीरे हमने एक दहलीज को पार किया है। 2 अंक से हम तीसरे अंक में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं और हमारे साथ आज हैं प्रोफेसर नंदिता शुक्ला सिंह मैडम। आप चंडीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी चंडीगढ़ में डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एजुकेशन में प्रोफेसर हैं। मैडम फॉर्मर चेयरपर्सन डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एजुकेशन भी हैं। मैडम डीन इंटरनेशनल स्टूडेंट्स हैं और काफ़ी लंबा एक्सपीरियंस है मैम का। आज हमसे बात करेंगी डिजिटल ब्लूम्स टैक्सोनॉमी एंड ऑनलाइन रिसोर्सेज इन द टाइम्स ऑफ कोविड-19। मैं आप सभी विद्यार्थियों की ओर से, अपनी ओर से मैडम का आज के इस व्याख्यान सत्र में स्वागत करता हूं। मैडम आपका स्वागत है और मैं लेक्चर के लिए इनवाइट करता हूं। मैडम प्लीज।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सोमू जी। सबसे पहले तो आपको बहुत बधाई हो कि आज आपके 100 एपिसोड जो है, ये 100वां एपिसोड है। बहुत बड़ी बात है और इससे पता चलता है कि आप कितने प्रोएक्टिव रहे हैं, क्योंकि अब जब हम सब लोग एकदम से ऑनलाइन मोड में आए हैं, आप कितने समय पहले से इस मोड में आ चुके हैं और आप कितना कार्यक्रम कर चुके हैं इस दिशा में, तो आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई हो। So I feel privileged in addressing all of you today on a very, very significant topic, that is digital Bloom's taxonomy. And I'm thankful to Dr. Somu Singh for inviting me to share my views on this topic with all of you. I think this is the right time to talk about Bloom's digital taxonomy, because we have been forced, as I said, because of this pandemic, we have been forced into something, and it is important for us to organize ourselves in a manner so that whatever activity we do is fruitful for all of us. So I would start with my presentation. Can we have the first slide, please? In the first slide, I'm talking about what UNESCO working paper talked about. This was the working paper which was called The Future of Learning, and it talked about what kind of pedagogies are needed for the 21st century. And in 2015, Cynthia Scott, who was a Fulbright scholar, so she had predicted that learners will need to develop new technological competencies. And she talked about skills, which are like critical thinking, ability to communicate effectively, innovate and solve problems through negotiations and collaborations. And this is what we are seeing in today's time. What is most important is to be able to solve current problems. And how can we do that? By negotiation and collaboration. If you see, for COVID-19, the kind of researches which are being done all throughout the world, those researches are being collaborated. The ones which are significant out of those researches, so those are being utilized for finding out strategies. So this is the time when we need to find solution to our problems. We want to negotiate, we want to collaborate, we want to work together, and also to communicate effectively. So this was predicted in this working paper. And it also said that 21st century pedagogies need to fuse traditional framework along with digital technology for an enriching learning experience for students. Next, please. And in today's time, when we are facing the COVID pandemic, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can we, yeah. So, please go back. Can we go back to the, yeah. इससे पीछे वाली में. Yes. So current situation when we are facing this COVID-19 pandemic, what we find today is that there is closure of educational institutions all throughout the world. Uh, there in this COVID-19 pandemic, there is worldwide closure of educational institutions, which is affecting more than 1.5 billion children and youth. In India, we closed down in March. If you remember, I think it was 22nd March when the Prime Minister announced the closure of all educational institutions. And in fact, in 27 countries, the closures were announced much before any case of virus was reported. With extended lockdowns, 58 countries have postponed their examination schedules, and 11 countries have cancelled their exams. Now, under these circumstances, you can see that educational institutions are now forced into shifting on the online mode. They are all shifting to, for their assessments, evaluations, for teaching. Educational institutions have no other way but to resort to online mode. So something which we were preparing ourselves for, now we have been forced into it. If you look at the UNESCO's website, you will find that there are digital learning platforms and digital tools which have been mentioned. Next slide, please. Next slide. इसे next ले लीजिए. Next, please. Yeah. So we see learning platforms which are being displayed on UNESCO website, and country-wise they have given the digital platforms which students can access. Similarly, for India, they have given some national learning platforms, and they have also mentioned the digital curricula which is available. We have Swayam portal where online courses are available. We have Swayam Prabha where digital courses are given on TV. Then we have PG Pathshala, that is electronic PG Pathshala by NCERT. So we have various platforms which are there by NCERT, NCTE, and so many other educational institutions, universities. So everybody is going on online mode these days. So this is we are having webinars, we are organizing web lectures. So everybody is going on the online mode. Next slide, please. So this brings us to our topic, which is very, very significant, that is Bloom's taxonomy. Before I go into digital Bloom's taxonomy, I would like to talk about the Bloom's taxonomy, which was given in 1956 by Bloom. He talked about three domains. He created a three hierarchical model to classify learning objectives into levels of complexity and simplicity and specificity. The three lists which he covered come under the cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor domain. The cognitive domain lists that is very important because that is what the educationists are more concerned about. That is the focus for educationists, and it uses the structure for the curricula, for developing of curriculum, for learning objectives of the curriculum, how assessment and evaluation is to be done, how learning teaching activities are to be organized. So everything has to be done according to the objectives. Now, in this domain, he proposed pathway from lower order learning skills to higher order learning skills. So lots to HOTS. So this was the pathway he had taken. Next, please. And in this pathway, we see that, when we are rushing towards this online mode, we have to remember that this taxonomy, which gives us an insight into the cognitive domain, how cognition happens. So it is very important to keep in mind all these 6, dimensions of the cognitive domain. Now, within the cognitive domain, in 2001, we found that these dimensions were revised. These dimensions were revised by Anderson and Krathwohl. What he did was that he again, as I said, he focused on the cognitive domain of learning and listing of the wording. There was a rewording of nouns to verbs. Earlier, you are all aware of the Bloom's taxonomy. We start with knowledge and we go forward to knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, and so on. And the first thing he did was, instead of nouns, he said, now we should have verbs. we should have active verbs. So there was a listing of or rewording from nouns to verbs. The second thing which he did was renaming of some of the components. Like knowledge is a category, so you cannot convert it into a verb. So it was reworded as remembering. Then there was repositioning of the last two categories. The last two categories were these were synthesis and evaluate. Now here he found that evaluate is referring to critical thinking ability, whereas synthesis was referring to the creative ability. So instead of synthesis, it was renamed as creating, and evaluation came before creation. So these were the three changes he made, and the most important significant change which they proposed was that knowledge can be now seen as factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge. I'll go into the details of that, how within these four categories there was an interface of all these cognitive levels. The cognitive levels, next slide please. I'll be talking about the cognitive levels which are there. Yeah, so from remembering, remembering, and then understanding, applying, analyzing. So all these levels which we are talking about here, these levels were interfacing with the knowledge categories. These categories were the factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. So I can give you an example like where the domains intersect and they act upon different types of levels of knowledge dimensions. This type of melting, can be charted to see how one is teaching at both knowledge and cognitive process level. For example, when we take remembering, at remembering level, if we are talking of factual knowledge, it would be like talking of facts, remembering some facts, like what was the temperature at this time in the day. So you are remembering facts. Then the conceptual knowledge would be recognizing the concepts or the principles behind that knowledge. And the procedural would be how do you do it? So recalling the methods or the criteria or the techniques for doing it. And metacognitive will be identifying or becoming aware of one's own cognition for, like for example, identifying strategies which help in retaining that information which I'm providing. So these are the four categories within the domain of remembering. So from remembering, when we go to understanding, again, we have these four domains in which understanding happens. Then application also happens in the four domains, and so on. So in the creation dimension, when we come to create, when we say create, and we talk of the factual domain of knowledge, so create would be a log of daily activities of what is happening in the classroom. So I create a log of activities. I create so that is at the factual level. If I have to do at the conceptual level, then I would be probably conceptualizing a team of experts. Here I'm conceptualizing a team of experts who can be a team of experts for playing cricket, a team of experts who can deliver a lecture on a certain topic. So that would be conceptualization level. The procedural level would be designing an efficient workflow chart. And the creation level would be designing my own portfolio. So these are the different levels at which different categories. So starting from knowledge, understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, and then creation, we can have different levels of different. They are interspersing with the different categories of knowledge. So this was a very, very detailed and very comprehensive model, which was given in 2001. Next, please. So we come to the Bloom's taxonomy, which was revised. We can see the levels here, and what I have explained has been talked about here. The different levels, I don't think you can see it very clearly because the slide is not as big as it should be, but you can see that the different levels are there, and for different levels, there are different sections which have been given, that in remembering you would be recalling, you would be identifying, you would be, so those are the things which are given there. So can we move further? Next slide, please. So the present pedagogies need to fuse traditional framework along with digital technology for an enriching learning experience to students. Such a collaboration between traditional framework and technology was developed by Andrew. What he did was, with the taxonomy, which was revised in 2001. In 2009, what Andrew Churches did, he gave digital, tools for, or digital, he talked about the digital platforms, digital tools, and digital ways of, doing things. Because we were talking about doing. How can we perform these things, tasks? So these tasks, how can these tasks be performed on a digital platform? So this is what Andrew Churches talked about, and that brings us to the topic of the day, that is Bloom's digital taxonomy. So if we see that, from Bloom's taxonomy, which was given in 1956, we came to the revised Bloom's taxonomy of 2001, and in 2009, within the revised Bloom's taxonomy, we have not changed anything, but we have given digital platforms and digital tools to enrich this taxonomy, and we called it Bloom's digital taxonomy. So it is where we are, the pedagogies are fusing the traditional framework with the digital technology to give an enriching experience to the students. Such a collaboration between traditional framework and technology. So this is what is Bloom's digital technology. I hope this is clear by now. Can we proceed to the next, please? Next slide, please. Yes. So what we see is that, in the past few years, you must have seen, this is about the original Bloom's taxonomy and the revised Bloom's taxonomy and the digital Bloom's taxonomy. So if you see, there is a revision in the revised Bloom's taxonomy. You see that there are changes, but in the digital Bloom's taxonomy, there are no changes, but only addition of some digital media in that. Next, please. So coming to remembering, it refers to stimulating one's memory to retrieve and register new information. Whatever information is there, we have to register that information. We have to register facts, figures, definitions, recognizing, describing, identifying. These are the verbs which have been used. Naming, finding, these are the few verbs which have been used with this. In digital world, it will be like Googling, searching, bullet pointing, highlighting, bookmarking, matching, labeling, numbering, selecting, etc. So these are the root of the hierarchy is remembering. We have to remember that. This is the first point. So if we remember which site I visited, so I have to remember for which particular topic, which is the site I visited. So remembering and recalling and identifying. And in many of the tests which you will find these days, the civil services preliminary tests, or many other tests, and even in your UGC NET test. So it is more of a test of recalling the information which you already possess, if you are able to recall that information. So you can only recall that information which is there if there is some background to it. So recalling is the first step in the cognitive domain. Next, please. Next is the understanding. Next slide, please. Understanding. So here we have, when we say understanding, it corresponds to relating concepts and deriving constructive meaning out of it. The other word forms that relate to understanding are like you can infer from things. You can infer something, then you can interpret something. You can from the given facts, you can make your own interpretation. You can summarize. You can classify. You can compare, exemplify, or in the digital world, if we think of, then it would be like advanced searches, or you can say commenting on somebody's work, on online work, or subscribing to some website, or annotating, or generalizing, discussing, or to construct meaning, from figurative, verbal, or graphic presentations. So this comes under the domain of understanding. Next, please. Applying. Next slide, please. So in applying, we have it relates to information and knowledge which is gained through actions like carrying out or using procedures through executing or implementing. Applying refers to situations where learned material is used through products like models, presentations, interviews, and simulations. Now, we have in the digital activities, we'll have like uploading of some information. So when you say applying, you are uploading some information on the digital platform. You're sharing information. You are articulating yourself. You are computing. You're displaying something, or experimenting, or administering, charting something, editing something, like you edit certain websites, and then that corresponds to application level. The tasks of editing, as an already provided source. There is already, like, there is a website which is provided, which is giving you information, and you edit that. So that also contributes to applying. Or you contribute to a discussion forum, so you're applying your knowledge and in a different field, and you're applying this and becoming part of the discussion forum by applying whatever knowledge you have into this field. Next is analyzing. Now here it is organizing, deconstructing, structuring, integrating, concluding, deducing, estimating, planning, mind mapping. In the digital world, it would be like linking, validating. You link your this thing, something with the other. You validate it, reverse engineering, cracking, or like media clipping, mashing. These are the things you can do. A few other examples would be like appraising, attributing, concluding, deducing, estimating, prioritizing. You can question, ask questions. So that would also be analyzing. Using online survey tools. There are various online survey tools available, digital tools which are available for online surveys. So when you use those online survey tools, that is also part of analyzing. The next is evaluation. In evaluation, it relates to applying judgment to concepts. Now till now you were applying or analyzing. Here you are now using your own judgment to evaluate. So when you apply judgment to a concept and carefully experiment with it, and then hypothesize, you make your own hypothesis from it, like in research we do, or you critique something, you check something, or you judge something, and then testing, detecting, monitoring, all these. And in digital world, it would be like reviewing a post which is there, like what we do in Twitter. We review a post sometimes, or we moderate a post. Blog commenting, we comment on someone's blog, we assess somebody's blog, we criticize someone's statement, or measuring, recommending, justifying, persuading, posting, and validating. All these would be part of the part of evaluation. Last would be the last dimension, the last level in this hierarchy is creating. And creating is the final level in Bloom's revised taxonomy. Creating implies to constructing something new, innovating, being able to produce something new. So this includes all the previous levels, starting from remembering, because when you create something, you need to, go through all the previous levels. So starting from remembering to evaluating, only then you will be able to create something new. So activities such as designing, constructing, planning, producing, inventing, devising, making, along with other digital activities like In digital world, it would be like programming, making your own program, animating, blogging, podcasting, writing digital or digital publishing, or you can say emailing, directing, and broadcasting. These can all be clubbed under creativity or creating. So this is the last level of the Bloom's taxonomy. Now, next, please. Next slide. इससे आगे चलिए आप लॉट्स एंड हॉट्स इसमें देख सकते हैं जो पहले 3 लेवल्स हैं दोज आर लॉट्स एंड द नेक्स्ट 3 लेवल्स आर कम अंडर हॉट्स दोज आर हायर लेवल्स so again they identified the lower level and the higher level. So now we come to technology integration in classroom. Now how can we integrate technology in a classroom? That's the most important question for a teacher now. Now what we have to do as teachers, what is happening presently is that teachers are trying to integrate technology by bringing in the same method of the same pedagogy of teaching into the digital world, which is not possible and which is not the right way to do it. Here we have to flip the classroom and let your students be your teachers. The teacher is there as a facilitator, as a guide, but the students have to now start finding ways of creating their own knowledge. So for this, students can be assigned to research on a topic, which is the topic which you want to teach. You can ask them to research on that topic, and you can also tell them that these are the websites from there they can get authentic material, or these are the sources, digital sources from where they can get material, because in today's time when we are facing this pandemic, it is very difficult to go to the library, or the only source material that students have presently are their textbooks. So from where do they find materials to find the sources, resources, so the teacher can guide them about those e-resources, and then he can integrate technology in students' experiences. And all this has to be keeping in mind the objectives of learning. And those objectives are the digital's Bloom taxonomy, the objectives given in Bloom's taxonomy. So keeping in mind those objectives, if we design our teaching learning experiences, because these are all teaching learning experiences which a teacher would be creating now. So these have to be designed, keeping in mind at what level I want to take my students to. And then students and faculty, they can use technology, and it can become an integral tool for them for their professional and academic development. Next, please. Next slide, please. I was just going through today, different kind of digital tools. So there are 75 digital tools and applications which teachers can use to support their formative assessment in classroom. Now, when I'm teaching in a class, how do I get to know whether the students whom I'm teaching are part of the learning, are understanding what I'm teaching to them, or are with me, are part of the active engagement, So for that, we have tools to create interactive online presentations. These tools measure, these tools help a teacher to know whether the students are participating actively in they are taking interest in the lesson which is being delivered. One of these is like Mentimeter. Mentimeter can be where students can use mobile phone, and they can vote for any question which teacher asks. And, this increases the students' engagement in the classroom teaching. Then there is a tool which is called Answer Garden. Answer Garden is an online feedback tool. You can use it in a platform like this, or you can use it in a conference, web conference, or in a webinar lecture, or you can use it in the classroom lecture, which is a digital virtual classroom lecture, where you ask a question, students answer that question. And what you find is that if the frequency of the way that answer has been given, you can match the frequencies and then see which answer, what the student feel about, what you have asked. So the question can be posed, then see the answer which is coming from students. Then there is Kahoot. it is a game-based classroom response system where teacher creates quizzes and using internet content, and the students answer those questions. Similar is Naiku is another digital tool which is also for creating quizzes. Then there is Padlet. Padlet is it provides a blank canvas for students to create and design collaborative projects. It is great for brainstorming. All these tools you'll find are helping you in these objectives, the objectives which I talked about: remembering, analyzing, applying, all these objectives. Sometimes the student can analyze information and share with each other. And in all these tools, you will find there is an element of collaboration. People are coming together, brainstorming, they're working together. Similarly, there is a tool called Peer Grade. Peer Grade is a platform that allows teachers to create assignments and upload rubrics. Then there is Play Posit, an interactive video and assessment tool. Then there is a tool called the Q, educational chat tool like Twitter, which allows teachers to post questions and students to respond on the thread of conversation which is taking place, like we do in Twitter. And then we have Google Forms. Everybody knows about that. Google Drive application, which creates documents and students can collaborate on in real time. They can work together. And then we have Socratic, and so many of these tools are there. As I said, there's this website which I mentioned. It talks about 75 digital tools and applications which teacher can use in a classroom. All these digital tools will help you in engaging your students, in active engagement. It is not. Yesterday I saw a video which was sent by someone where the teacher felt I felt that the students were not even attending to his class. So if you use these tools, you will find that there is an active participation by the students in your classroom teaching, classroom engagement. So I think digital tools can be very, very useful in present circumstances when we are going online, and for assessment, formative assessment especially, because that will help you in knowing whether the students are with you while you are teaching those lessons. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this is the last slide which I am taking up. It talks about digital instruction philosophy. It says that digital instruction philosophy is going to be a critical factor in shaping the future generation. And digital Bloom's taxonomy is a perfect amalgamation of traditional pedagogy and educational technology to meet the needs of millennial learners. So we have to remember, in today's circumstances, I think if we keep in mind and if we plan our lectures as per using digital media, digital technology, digital tools, and we keep in mind the Bloom's digital taxonomy, and accordingly design our lessons, that would be really great. That would be very helpful. Thank you again, Dr. Sonu. Yeah. Dr. Somu Singh, thank you again for giving me this opportunity. I don't know how much I've been able to clarify these concepts, but I've just made a very humble attempt to talk about these things. And I think this would be just a point of initiation, a point of stimulation, which will make you think about how to, how to use your digital tools, keeping in mind these the digital taxonomy. So if you do that, that will really be great. Thank you so much.
मैडम, बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से आपने ब्लूम्स की टैक्सोनॉमी की जो हायरार्की है उसको समझाया है, और एक एक करके जिस तरीके से इस पैंडेमिक में हम लोग ऑनलाइन रिसोर्सेज यूज़ कर रहे हैं और जितनी भी एक्टिविटीज़ कर रहे हैं और जो स्किल्स रिक्वायर्ड हैं उसके हिसाब से हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं, उसको बहुत ही सुंदर तरीके से आपने प्रस्तुत किया है। और एक नया विषय हम सभी टीचर्स के लिए, और जो वुड बी टीचर्स हैं, आपने रखा है। और हम लोग अब इस नज़रिए से भी ब्लूम की टैक्सोनॉमी को देखना शुरू करेंगे और अध्ययन करना शुरू करेंगे। हम सब के लिए आपका ये लेक्चर बहुत ही यूज़फुल है, बहुत ही इफ़ेक्टिव रहा। थैंक यू वेरी मच कि आपने अपने बिजी शेड्यूल में से टाइम निकाला हम सब विद्यार्थियों के लिए, और हम विद्यार्थियों की ओर से आपका बहुत बहुत आभार प्रकट करते हैं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm much grateful to you. Thank you.